The hum of commerce filled the air of the interstellar station as species from various corners of the galaxy mingled, bartered, and negotiated. Daniel walked briskly through the crowds, his eyes taking in the exotic wares and unfamiliar faces with eager curiosity. As a newly appointed human diplomat, this was his first official mission, and his excitement was palpable. "Daniel! Over here!" shouted a voice from behind a stall draped with vibrant textiles. Turning, Daniel spotted Tom, an old academy friend and now a fellow diplomat, waving him over. Tom's face split into a grin as Daniel approached, clapping him on the shoulder. "Never thought I'd see you here, of all places," Tom said, his voice loud over the din of the market. "It's the last place I expected to be stationed, but here I am," Daniel replied, scanning the area as they spoke. "It's incredible, isn't it? All these different beings, living and working together." Tom nodded, gesturing to a vendor selling delicate crystal figurines that shimmered in the artificial light. "And to think, each one has its own story, its own world. Makes you realize how vast the universe is." As they walked, Daniel's gaze was drawn to a secluded booth at the end of the row. It was quieter there, away from the main thoroughfare. A lone figure stood behind the counter, her skin shimmering with a subtle luminescence that seemed to shift with her movements. "Who's that?" Daniel asked, nodding toward the booth. Tom followed his gaze, squinting slightly. "Oh, that's Mira. She's from Xylenia, pretty reclusive folks. They rarely interact with other species." Curiosity piqued, Daniel made his way over. Mira looked up as he approached, her eyes widening slightly. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice melodic but guarded. "I'm Daniel," he said, extending a hand, then quickly retracting it, remembering that not all cultures appreciated human gestures. "I'm new here, just trying to learn as much as I can about everyone on the station." Myra's expression softened a bit. "I see. Not many humans take an interest in Xylenia. What can you tell me about your home?" Daniel inquired, genuine interest coloring his tone. "It is a world of deep oceans and towering crystal forests," Mira began, warming to the subject. "Much quieter than this place. Here, everything and everyone is so vibrant, so full of energy." Daniel smiled, his enthusiasm evident. "It sounds beautiful. I hope I can visit one day." "Do you miss it?" "Every day," Mira confessed, allowing a rare glimpse into her emotions. "But my mission is important. It's about more than just me." Intrigued by her hint at something deeper, Daniel leaned in. "What kind of mission?" Mira hesitated, then said, "It's complicated. Xylenia is interested in establishing more active trade routes, but we're cautious. Not all species have good intentions." "That makes sense," Daniel nodded. "Maybe we can help each other. I'm here to facilitate trade and build alliances. Perhaps together, we can ensure that the interests of Xylenia are represented fairly." Mira regarded him for a long moment, then smiled slightly. "Perhaps. It is unusual to meet a human who listens more than he talks." Daniel laughed. "I'm full of surprises. Maybe I can start by buying one of your crystals? As a token of goodwill." Selecting a small, gleaming figurine, Daniel handed over his payment, feeling the weight of the crystal in his palm. "I hope this is the beginning of a beneficial relationship for both our people." "As do I, Daniel." "As do I," Mira replied, her smile reaching her eyes for the first time. As Daniel walked away, crystal in hand, he felt the thrilling potential of this new connection. Little did he know, this chance encounter would soon lead him on a path that would change not only his destiny, but also the course of human-alien relations forever. Chapter 2: Curiosity. Daniel and Tom navigated their way through a labyrinth of corridors within the station, each turn revealing more about the eclectic blend of cultures cohabiting this space. As they walked, Daniel recounted his encounter with Mira, unable to conceal his fascination. "Sounds like you made quite an impression," Tom commented, his tone teasing but approving. "Meeting someone from Xylenia up close and personal? That's a rare opportunity." "I think there's a lot we can learn from her and her people," Daniel replied thoughtfully. "There's something about her, something compelling." As they continued their tour, Daniel's communicator beeped, a message from Mira. It was an invitation to join her at a cultural exchange seminar. Eager to deepen the newfound connection, he quickly accepted. "Looks like you're diving right in," Tom said with a chuckle. "Don't forget, we've got our own sessions to attend." "True, but this could help with those. Understanding her culture could open a lot of doors for us," Daniel explained. The seminar was held in one of the station's many conference rooms, designed to mimic the peaceful ambience of a natural setting. Daniel arrived to find Mira already there, along with a diverse group of other species, each representative eager to share their heritage. Mira greeted him with a nod, her demeanor reserved yet welcoming. "Thank you for coming, Daniel. I think you'll find today's discussions enlightening." "I'm sure I will," Daniel replied, finding a seat next to her. The seminar began with representatives from different worlds discussing their traditions, values, and arts. Daniel listened intently, taking notes and asking questions when appropriate. His genuine interest did not go unnoticed by Mira. During a break, she turned to him. "Most humans don't seek to understand others so deeply. Why do you?" "It's not just my job, but also my passion," Daniel responded. "I believe that peace comes from understanding, and understanding from communication. If we all took the time to learn about each other, perhaps we'd have fewer conflicts." Mira considered his words, her expression thoughtful. "That is a noble view. Many in the galaxy could learn from such an approach." Encouraged by her interest, Daniel ventured further. "What about you? What drives you to engage with other species, despite your culture's caution?" "My reasons are personal as much as they are professional," Mira confessed. "I believe in my world's potential to contribute to and benefit from the galaxy's community. But change is slow, and distrust runs deep. Perhaps together, we can start to bridge that gap," Daniel suggested, his tone hopeful. Mira smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "Perhaps. But for now, let's focus on learning from today's session. Shall we?" As the seminar resumed, Daniel found himself more determined than ever to foster a partnership with Mira. With each presentation, he gained insights not only into Xylenia, but into the complexity of interstellar relations. Each speaker brought a new perspective, enriching his understanding and appreciation of the delicate tapestry of galactic cultures. As the day concluded, Tom met up with Daniel, his expression curious. "Learn anything interesting?" "More than I hoped," Daniel answered, his mind buzzing with ideas and possibilities. "And I think we're just getting started." Together, they left the conference room, discussing their plans to leverage the day's learnings for their diplomatic missions. As they walked, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. The station wasn't just a place of trade, but a frontier of potential, a place where understanding could build bridges between the most unlikely of allies. Chapter 3. The Forbidden Exchange. After the seminar, Daniel found himself frequently crossing paths with Mira, each encounter deepening their unusual friendship. The station's mix of cultures offered endless opportunities for shared explorations, and they took full advantage, visiting exhibits and attending lectures together. One afternoon, as they walked through an art gallery showcasing works from various alien cultures, Daniel pointed to a series of abstract paintings created by a species known for their sensory perception beyond human capabilities. "These are incredible," Daniel remarked, his eyes scanning the vibrant colors and shapes that seemed almost alive. "Do you think the artists actually see these colors, or is it more about what they feel?" Mira leaned closer, her interest apparent. "It's both, I believe. Art is a reflection of perception, human or otherwise. What do your people see when they look at these?" "We see a mixture of confusion and awe, mostly," Daniel chuckled, then grew more serious. "It makes you wonder about the limits of our own perceptions." "That's a profound thought," Mira responded, her tone appreciative. "And here I thought humans were all about action rather than contemplation." "We're full of surprises," Daniel quipped, enjoying the easy banter that had developed between them. Their next stop was a botanical garden that simulated various planetary climates to house alien flora. As they wandered through a section mimicking the humid jungles of Goric V, Tom caught up with them, wiping his brow exaggeratedly. "You weren't kidding about the humidity," Tom joked, joining the conversation. "This place is like a sauna." "How's the tour going?" "Enlightening," Daniel replied, glancing at Mira with a smile. Mira was just sharing some Xylenian philosophy tied to their flora. "Yes, each plant on Xylenia is seen as a keeper of wisdom," Mira explained, gesturing to a delicate fern-like plant with luminescent leaves. "They believe plants are the oldest historians, recording everything in their silence." "Sounds like they'd have a lot to say about what's going on around here," Tom mused, looking around at the variety of species mingling in peace. The discussion turned to the regulations that govern interactions like theirs, friendships that could be scrutinized under cultural and legal magnifying glasses. They found a quiet bench to sit and delve deeper into this complex topic. Daniel leaned forward, his voice low. I've heard stories of relationships between species leading to serious repercussions. Are we risking too much by being seen together like this? Myra's expression was sober. It's a valid concern. Xylenia values privacy and discretion for a reason. Yet here I am, openly conversing with humans. And we appreciate it, Tom added. It's these small acts that change perceptions, slowly but surely. But not without risk, Mira conceded. Both of our peoples could see this as a breach of protocol. Then we tread carefully, Daniel said decisively. We learn, we share, and we respect the boundaries. Our cultures are different, but our goals are similar, to understand and to be understood. Mira nodded, a slight tension easing from her posture. That's a rare attitude, especially here. It's refreshing. As they rose to leave the garden, the conversation shifted back to lighter topics, but the issue lingered in Daniel's mind. He was acutely aware of the balance they had to maintain. Friendships like theirs were delicate, especially on the frontier of interspecies relations where every gesture carried weight. Today was a good day. Despite the heavier discussions, Daniel remarked as they parted ways with Tom. Yes, it was, Mira agreed, her gaze lingering on Daniel a moment longer than usual. Thank you for making it easier. As Daniel watched her retreating figure, he felt a stir of anticipation mixed with caution. This friendship could redefine his mission and perhaps their futures, but only time would tell how much they could push the boundaries before they bent too far. Chapter 4: The First Touch. The station's cycle of night had just begun, casting a dim, artificial twilight over its corridors, when Daniel invited Mira to his private quarters for a quiet dinner. It was a risk, given the unspoken rules about interspecies interactions in private settings, but Daniel felt it was worth the potential fallout to deepen their connection. Are you sure this is wise? Mira asked as she entered, her eyes scanning the small but cozy space. Daniel smiled, closing the door behind her. Probably not. But sometimes the unwise path is the most enlightening. Mira chuckled, a sound that Daniel found increasingly delightful. I'll take your word for it. What's on the menu? Something simple, I'm afraid. Human food might not be to your taste, but I've tried to pick something neutral. Daniel led her to a small table where 2 plates were set. Pasta with a side of synthesized proteins. It's nutritious, if not particularly exciting. As they sat and began to eat, the initial awkwardness faded. Conversation flowed more easily in the private setting, touching on topics from daily station life to the dreams they harbored. I never imagined myself living in space, Mira confessed, twirling her fork in the pasta. I was always more interested in the sciences than in space exploration. And yet, here you are, Daniel remarked. Do you think you'll stay long at the station? As long as my mission requires, Mira replied, then sighed softly. But I sometimes wonder if there's more for me than just this assignment. Daniel nodded, understanding the sentiment. I think about that too. What more we could be doing, not just for our people, but for ourselves. The conversation drifted to their respective cultures, each sharing more personal aspects of their lives. As the evening wore on, they moved to the small living area, where a couple of comfortable chairs faced the viewport, showing the vastness of space outside. It's beautiful, isn't it? Daniel said, gesturing to the stars. Sometimes I just sit here and watch the universe. It puts things into perspective. Mira joined him by the window, her expression contemplative. Xylenia has skies filled with stars, but they look different from here. I miss it. Without thinking, Daniel reached out, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Maybe you'll show it to me one day. Mira turned to face him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. The contact was light, but it sent a jolt of electricity through them both. Maybe I will, she whispered. The moment felt suspended in time, the only reality being the two of them, the stars, and the growing connection that neither could deny. Slowly, Daniel's hand moved from her shoulder to gently cup her cheek, his thumb caressing her soft skin. Myra's breath hitched, and for a heartbeat, Daniel thought he had overstepped. But then she leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. When she opened them again, there was no fear, only a deep, unspoken understanding. Daniel, she began, her voice a soft murmur. This is dangerous. I know, he replied, his voice equally low. But it feels right, doesn't it? It does, Mira admitted, and then almost hesitantly, she reached up to touch his face in return. Her touch was tentative at first, exploring the unfamiliar texture of his skin, then grew bolder. The distance between them lessened, and Daniel found himself leaning in, his heart racing. When their lips finally met, the kiss was gentle, exploratory, filled with the sweetness of discovery and the thrill of forbidden fruit. As they parted, the intensity of the moment left them both breathless. "We should be careful," Mira said, a note of regret in her voice. "Yes," Daniel agreed, though every fiber of his being screamed otherwise. "We will be." They spent a few more minutes in silence, watching the stars and savoring the lingering warmth of their first kiss, a kiss that promised complications, but also possibilities. Daniel knew that whatever lay ahead, this moment would change everything. Chapter 5: Cultural Revelations. The implications of their kiss lingered heavily in the air as Daniel and Mira met the next day at a neutral academic facility on the station. They had agreed to attend a lecture together on interspecies relationships, hoping to understand the broader social and legal context of their burgeoning connection. Daniel greeted Mira with a cautious smile as she approached. "Ready for some enlightenment?" he asked, his voice light but his eyes betraying his nervousness. Mira returned his smile with a slight nod. "More than ever. I think we could use some guidance, given our situation." They found seats among a diverse crowd, the room buzzing with multiple languages and the subtle hum of translation devices. The speaker, a renowned expert on galactic anthropology, began the lecture with a historical overview of interspecies unions. As we explore the history of interspecies relationships, we find that while some were fraught with challenges, others led to significant cultural and technological advancements, the speaker announced, prompting Daniel to lean over to Mira. "It's a bit comforting, isn't it? Knowing we're not the first to face this kind of situation." "It is," Mira whispered back, her attention fixed on the images of mixed-species communities thriving in harmony. The lecture continued, detailing cases where such relationships had influenced laws and social norms, sometimes leading to alliances that had shifted power balances in regions of the galaxy. During the Q&A session, Daniel raised his hand, his voice steady as he asked, "Could you elaborate on the legal protections for those in interspecies relationships, particularly in a place like this station?" The speaker nodded, pleased with the question. "Excellent query. On a station such as this, governed by a conglomerate of species laws, the protections can vary. Generally, there are safeguards to prevent discrimination based on species, but social acceptance can lag behind legal measures." Mira looked at Daniel, her expression thoughtful. "That aligns with what I've studied about human law, progressive on paper, but sometimes slow on the uptake in practice." "Exactly," Daniel agreed, his mind racing with possibilities. "Perhaps there's room for us to advocate for more explicit protections, or at least for greater awareness." As the crowd began to disperse, Tom joined them, clapping Daniel on the shoulder. "Heard your question, man. Stirring the pot, aren't we?" "Trying to," Daniel replied, grinning. "We've got to use these opportunities to learn and possibly even influence policy." "Count me in," Tom said. "This isn't just your fight. It's about setting precedents for everyone coming after us." The trio walked out of the lecture hall, their discussion turning to strategies for raising awareness about interspecies relationships. They talked about organizing panels, writing articles, and even starting a support network on the station. "Think of it," Tom mused, "a forum where everyone, regardless of origin, can share their experiences, seek advice, and find support. It could really make a difference." Myra's eyes lit up with the prospect. "I can contribute insights from Xylenia's history. Our isolation has given us unique perspectives on the importance of connection and understanding." "Perfect," Daniel said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Let's start putting this together. We might be navigating uncharted waters, but together, we can chart a course that others can follow." As they parted ways, Daniel felt a surge of hope, not just for his relationship with Mira, but for the potential they had to effect meaningful change. The lecture had not only provided them with context, but also with a path forward, one that could redefine interactions on the station and beyond. Chapter 6: The Crisis. The newfound collaboration between Daniel, Mira, and Tom was starting to gain traction on the station, sparking dialogue and interest among many of the inhabitants. However, not everyone viewed their efforts positively. The tension came to a head during a scheduled panel discussion they organized on cultural diversity and interspecies relationships. Daniel was setting up the stage with Tom when he noticed a small group of station security officers led by Commander Holt, a stern and imposing figure, approaching them. "Daniel, we need to talk," Commander Holt announced as he neared, his voice firm and carrying an edge of warning. Tom stepped back, giving them space but staying within earshot. Daniel faced the commander, his expression calm. Of course, Commander. What's on your mind? It's come to my attention that you and Miss Mira have been quite active in promoting interspecies relations, Holt began, his eyes narrowing slightly. While I appreciate the enthusiasm, there are concerns about the implications of your actions. You're stirring up quite the pot. Daniel nodded, understanding the delicacy of the situation. I respect that, Commander. We're only trying to foster understanding and cooperation among the station's residents. Holt crossed his arms, unconvinced. Understanding is one thing, but your actions could be seen as undermining the cultural norms and legal boundaries established by the governing bodies of various species, including your own. It's a delicate balance here, and I'm responsible for maintaining that balance. Surely, open discussion and shared experiences can only strengthen our community, Daniel countered, his tone respectful yet firm. The commander sighed, the weight of his responsibilities evident. Perhaps. But there are proper channels and limits. I'm here to warn you to tread carefully. Not everyone is as open-minded as you might hope. Tom chimed in, Commander, we're aware of the risks, but avoiding the topic doesn't help anyone. We're advocating for awareness, not anarchy. Holt looked between them, his expression softening marginally. Just be aware, the higher-ups are watching. Any sign of trouble, and I'll have to step in, officially. With a final nod, Holt and his team departed, leaving Daniel and Tom to digest the warning. That could have gone worse, Tom muttered, adjusting a microphone stand. It could still, Daniel replied, a pensive look crossing his face. We need to be more cautious about how we frame these discussions. As the attendees began to filter in, Mira joined them, sensing the tense atmosphere. What happened? She asked, looking from Daniel to Tom. Commander Holt just gave us a friendly warning. We're under scrutiny, Daniel explained, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of frustration and determination. Mira took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. Then we must ensure our panel is impeccable. We need to show that these discussions are necessary and beneficial. The panel proceeded without a hitch, with Daniel, Mira, and Tom presenting their points eloquently and handling questions from the audience with tact and insight. The positive reception from the mixed crowd seemed to affirm their approach, but the warning from Commander Holt lingered in the back of Daniel's mind. After the event, the three of them gathered to debrief. We did well today, Mira stated, though her voice carried a hint of worry. But we should consider the commander's words. We need allies, not just among the residents, but within the station's administration. You're right, Daniel agreed. Let's start reaching out more formally. Maybe if we get some officials on our side, it will ease the tension. Tom nodded. I'll start drafting a proposal for a regular cultural exchange program. Something official might appease the higher-ups. As they parted ways, the weight of their task seemed greater than ever. Yet, Daniel felt a renewed commitment to their cause. The path they had chosen was fraught with challenges, but the potential for real change was too significant to ignore. They had to continue, cautiously, but with conviction. Chapter 7, The Decision. The days following the panel discussion were tense on the station. Daniel, Mira, and Tom continued their efforts to promote cultural understanding, but the atmosphere was charged with an undercurrent of unease. Word of their initiatives had spread, and though many supported their cause, opposition from certain quarters was growing more vocal. As Daniel was reviewing data on interspecies interactions at his workstation, he received an urgent message from Tom, requesting him to meet in the cafeteria. He hurried over, finding Tom seated at a corner table, his expression grave. What's going on? Daniel asked as he approached. Tom looked up, his face serious. We've got a problem. I've heard from a reliable source that the station's governing council is considering a formal inquiry into our activities. They think we're causing instability. Daniel's heart sank. Instability? We've been careful to stay within the guidelines. I know, but it seems we've ruffled some feathers. There's talk of restricting human and Xylenian interactions as a precaution, Tom revealed, his tone frustrated. At that moment, Mira joined them, having been briefed by Tom earlier. This could undermine everything we've worked for, she said, her voice laced with concern. If they push this inquiry, it could set a precedent that might shut down all our efforts. We need to decide our next move, Daniel stated, looking between his two friends. We could tone down our activities, try to appease the council. Tom shook his head. That might just show them that they can bully us into silence. Maybe it's time to take our case directly to the council. Show them the positive impact of our work. Mira nodded in agreement. I support that. If we present our findings, the testimonials from participants, it might help them see the benefits. The decision was made to request a hearing with the council. Over the next few days, they prepared meticulously, gathering evidence and documenting testimonials from various species who had benefited from their programs. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. The council chamber was imposing, designed to intimidate. The members of the council, representatives of the major species on the station, sat in a semicircle, their expressions unreadable. Daniel was the first to speak. Honorable council members, we stand before you today not as agitators, but as advocates for unity and understanding. Our initiatives have not only increased awareness, but have fostered meaningful exchanges that have benefited all parties involved. Tom took over, displaying charts and feedback reports on the screen behind them. As you can see, participation in our programs has led to a decrease in misunderstandings and conflicts among the station's residents. We have testimonials from dozens of participants, praising the opportunities for engagement and learning. Mira concluded their presentation, her voice steady and compelling. We understand the concerns about stability and order. However, isolating us will not strengthen our station's community. It is through interaction, not segregation, that we grow stronger together. The council members whispered among themselves after the presentation, their deliberations tense and prolonged. Finally, the head of the council, a venerable Altarian, addressed them. Your efforts are commendable and your passion clear. However, we must consider all perspectives. We will take your arguments into account and deliver our decision within 3 days. As they left the chamber, the weight of uncertainty bore down on them, but Daniel felt a sense of pride in their defense. We did everything we could, he said to Mira and Tom as they exited. Now it's out of our hands. Whatever the decision, we've made a difference, Tom added, clapping Daniel on the shoulder. Mira smiled, her eyes meeting Daniel's. Thank you, both of you, for standing by this cause. No matter what happens, we've started something important here. The trio walked back to their quarters, not knowing what the future held, but united in their commitment to their cause, prepared to accept the council's decision, whatever it might be. Chapter 8, A New Beginning. The tension on the station was palpable as the entire community awaited the council's decision. Daniel, Mira, and Tom found themselves at the center of attention, their future activities, and perhaps their continued presence on the station hanging in the balance. On the day the decision was to be announced, they gathered in the council chamber once more, the air thick with anticipation. The chamber was packed, a testament to the impact their efforts had made on the station's populace. As the council members filed in, the trio exchanged reassuring glances. No matter the outcome, they knew they had sparked a significant dialogue that wouldn't easily be quelled. The venerable Altarian rose to address the assembly, his voice echoing through the chamber. After careful consideration and deliberation, the council has reached a decision regarding the activities conducted by Daniel, Mira, and Tom. It is the decision of this council that their initiatives, while controversial, have indeed contributed positively to the station's cultural dynamics. A murmur of surprise and relief swept through the room. Daniel felt a weight lift off his shoulders, his heart racing with hope. The Altarian continued, therefore, it is the decision of this council to not only allow these activities to continue, but also to officially support them by integrating them into the station's cultural programs. Furthermore, we will establish a new committee to oversee and expand these efforts, ensuring they align with our collective goals for peace and understanding. The chamber erupted into applause, a sound that resonated with victory and the promise of new opportunities. Mira squeezed Daniel's hand tightly, her face alight with joy. We did it, she whispered to him, her voice thick with emotion. We did indeed, Daniel replied, his eyes sparkling with excitement and pride. After the session, as the chamber slowly emptied, Tom clapped both of his friends on the back. I can't believe it. They really gave us the green light. And more than that, Daniel added. They're backing us officially. This could change everything, not just for us, but for everyone here. As they left the council chamber, the trio discussed their next steps. We need to organize, set up the first official meeting of this new committee, and draft the objectives, Mira suggested, her mind already racing ahead. And we'll need to reach out to other species, get more representatives involved, Tom said. It's about making this a collective effort. As they walked through the corridors of the station, their path now clear, Daniel felt a profound sense of accomplishment and potential. They had turned a personal passion into a community-wide movement that would hopefully foster deeper connections among all the station's diverse inhabitants. The final scene saw Daniel, Mira, and Tom overlooking the viewport, watching as a ship docked with the station, bringing new faces and potential new stories. "Look at that," Daniel said, gesturing towards the newcomers. "New beginnings, just in time for our new chapter." "Yes," Mira agreed, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "A new chapter where understanding isn't just an ideal, but a practice." Tom nodded, his usual humor mingling with a rare seriousness. "Let's make sure it's a good one. After all, we've got a whole station to inspire." With the stars as their backdrop, the trio stood together, ready to face whatever challenges and triumphs lay ahead, united by their shared vision of a more connected and understanding universe.